Allegiance to order. Stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Normal speech. If you have a cell phone, please either mute it or turn it off. Thank you. Approval of treasurer warrants. Payroll warrant for August 17th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Accounts payable warrant for August 21st.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Approval of the minutes for August 14th. Do we have any corrections, omissions, or anything?
Additions?
Yes.
Yes, on page 3, the first one, bid openings, when we get down where it discusses it, I would like this sentence added. Selectman Ben Rhines questioned why there was 2 different sums of money put out to bid.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other corrections? Can I have a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Thank you. Special presentation or awards. Marion has a special presentation she wants to do.
So it is my great honor this evening to introduce to those of you that are attending this evening our next Chief of Police for the town of Wiscasset. Larry Hesseltine is with us. Would you come forward and speak to the...
Do you want me to?
Sure, sure. You can go to the microphone or you can speak up front.
I guess
yes, I'm going to be needing.
Take a minute.
I told your ninja I wear my
Yes, you did.
I just want to thank you for the opportunity to serve the town of Wiscasset. As you know, but probably not you guys know, I've been a police officer for 30 years. My platform, so to speak, for my law enforcement career is my involvement with the community. I'm heavily involved with Special Olympics, the DARE program, and just I believe that community policing is the way of the future, and I look forward to serving the town of Wiscasset in the capacity of police chief. I look forward to working with the town select board, the town manager, Sergeant Worcester, and rebuilding the Wiscasset Police Department. And I'm anxious to get started.
Well, thank you. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. We have one more thing under special presentation. We received a box today, and inside the box is a letter. And it says, Selectman, Town of the Wiscasset. Dear Selectman, the enclosed new United States flag belonged to my stepfather, Brewster D. Doggett, who was a long-time and active Wiscasset resident. I thought there might be a time when it would be necessary to have a new flag in some area of the town, and you might choose to use this one. If you prefer, please give it to the American Legion for its use or for proper disposal, or you may wish to give it to the Westport Island for use. Sincerely, Deborah Hammond. Okay, we have no public hearings, we have no committee appointments. Now we're down to the public comment section. At each regular selectmen meeting, there'll be time devoted to any resident or taxpayer of the town of Wiscasset to address the selectmen regarding any item that is not on the agenda for that meeting. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per person. There'll be a 30-minute maximum for this section. Is there any public comment at this time? Please stand and state your name.
My name is Tom Bryan, with the town of Wiscasset. I have some handouts.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this thing working?
Just press the little button on the bottom, it should be.
How about now?
Did it light up?
Oh, it says 2 seconds. It's not lighting up.
Talk loud.
Then talk real loud.
Okay.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Okay. Again, my name is Tom Bryant. I live on JP's Way, Wiscasset. We are formally requesting that the board instruct the codes enforcement officer to have the planning board conduct a site plan review on the Connex box storage units at both of Big Al's locations. 1, the Route 1 retail location, and 2, the JP's Way warehouse location. We have requested this action on a number of occasions, and the reasons we were given for no action were: 1, first, the units were said to be temporary. This is not the case, as they sit on concrete foundations. They've been there for years, and storage of consumer fireworks is only permitted in, quote, a permanent, fixed, standalone building dedicated solely to the storage and sale of consumer fireworks. Main statute, Title 8, MRS subsection 223A4. Then the Connex boxes were compared to other similar units around town which are not subject to site plan reviews or permits. We were asked, how can the town know what's being stored inside these units? The answer is that in the case of Big Al's Connex boxes, they are specifically marked with signs that they contain fireworks as required by the state. They are therefore not subject to different, They are therefore subject to different, more stringent requirements than run-of-the-mill storage containers. The town is required by ordinance to conduct a site plan review for facilities housing hazardous materials. This was not done in 2012 for Al's main warehouse, and despite our repeated requests, it was not done in 2016 when he installed the Connex boxes at JP's Way. One other thing we need to address. At last week's meeting, there was some discussion as to whether an annual license from the Board of Selectmen would be, for Mr. Cohen, a renewal or a first-time license. Judy Colby pointed out that a public hearing had been held when Big Al was first opening his fireworks outlet. We have scoured the Selectmen's minutes for 2011 and 2012. We found one public hearing held on September 13, 2011, but it was, quote, regarding the need for a fireworks ordinance. It wasn't a hearing for the purpose of granting an annual license from the Board of Selectmen to Mr. Cohen. We could find nothing in any of the other minutes discussing a license for Mr. Cohen, and in fact, no form had ever been designed by the town until now for him to apply for a license. Given that the new form for the annual license will be a first-time application for Mr. Cohen, it would seem that the public hearing requirement must stand. Regarding the photos on the back, on the 2 attached photos, both of those photos were taken today. The first photo is at JP's Way, and there is a requirement that containers be posted with signs on all 4 sides. The one on the left is clearly in violation of that requirement. Next photo is the Route 1 location, and it also says, a little hard to read, but it says fireworks, no smoking on the one side that I was able to get at. I would like to invite any and all members of the board to come over to JB's Way and inspect this situation personally. All you need to do is see this in person to understand how totally inappropriate it is to have fireworks storage a mere 16 feet from what is clearly a residential driveway. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment? All right, seeing none, we will go on. Department head or committee chair. Department head monthly reports. Any comments on the reports?
I just want to comment the absence of EMS, fire, and police reports. I realize we've got personnel issues, but business continues, and in the future, maybe if we are missing personnel, we should figure out another way just to be updated on what's happening.
Yeah, I noticed those were missing. Thank you, Kim. Anyone else have any comments? Okay. Update on transfer station forklift. Ron Lear, transfer station superintendent.
All right, we had New England Industrial Truck come down last week after the meeting, and they took it, well, Ted took the forklift down to the town garage, and they went down there, went over it what they could without totally tearing it apart. They've come up that it needs an engine. There was no timing issues or anything of that nature that could make it run any better. He was probably down there 3 hours, checking it out, going over it and stuff. So they've come back with an estimate of $13,185 to fix this forklift.
Fix the one we have.
Yeah, fix the one we have.
That would it consist of a new motor,
Yeah.
new engine, I assume?
Yes. Yep.
Is that a replaced engine or rebuilt?
Replaced.
Any questions from the board? Any thoughts?
I feel like he brought a recommendation to us last week, and we should have just moved on that, which is what I said last week. You know, it seems to me like a waste of time and energy, but thank you for going out of your way to look into this.
Well, I like the idea that, you know, you did your due diligence and $13,000 to fix a forklift, that's a lot of money.
Especially for a 1994.
And how much is a new one?
Anywhere from 24 to 28,000.
Well, that's almost like a no-brainer. Al, did you have something you wanted to say?
I wanted to ask what a new one was, and knowing you're gonna pay half the price to repair, like he says, a 95, it doesn't make economic sense to put that much money into a 23-year-old machine.
Right.
That's what he said to us last week.
And what would you do with this forklift, the one that he fixed?
Trade it in.
They'll take it in trade?
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't have to pay them to take it.
Not yet. It's still moving at the moment.
Yes, Catherine?
Well, if we do trade it in, if we agree to buy a new one, does that alter that $24,000 to $28,000 price, or is that kind of including a trade-in?
Yeah, they all had submitted estimates, and, you know, they were allowing anywhere from 2,000 to
I
3,500.
see, okay, so that was, so
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
trade-in value was included in those
Yeah.
estimates, okay, thank
But
you.
we'll put it out to bid to get, you know, a better price.
That was gonna be my next question, that it was gonna go out to bid.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I thank you for doing what the board asks, and I agree.
So what are we talking for monies now?
We're talking probably anywhere between
24 and $28,000.
28,000 and 34,000. I want to say.
That's what came in at the last meeting.
That is without a trade, without any allowance for a trade.
Yeah, well, they all had that roughly in there, so
Okay.
it's in that ballpark.
And we're still going to use some of your money in your budget, the $2,400 for the next 6 months.
Yep, we can, if I
For
can't,
payments.
yeah, if I can't use any that I had left over or the extra revenue I brought in last year. It's up to you guys.
I feel like the way you presented it to us last week, and the motion that I made last week was pretty clear. It mentioned the trade-in, it outlined the costs, it mentioned the revenue, and how the rest would go in the next year's budget. It made sense. I can't remember what the original motion was from last week, but we could do that again.
So what could be done is to make monthly payments,
Yeah.
which would be included in your budget.
Yep. And there's a couple of companies that offer financing, or we could go through like the first.
What's the
like we
interest
had
rate?
before. They haven't said yet.
What about a lease with an option to buy? Is that a possibility?
That's what a couple of them were at the end of the 4 or 5 years. You paid them $1 and it was yours.
How much did he have? Was it under last year?
Denise is just going to get those numbers. Do you remember, Ron, off the top of your head?
$2,432. $2,432 left over in the budget.
What's the board's pleasure?
I'd want to know the numbers of what we have carried forward.
Okay. Bernice is getting those now.
I realize the numbers are a lot smaller, but we actually hired lawyers to prevent the schools from doing exactly what this is suggesting we do. Which is to sign a contract and then go back year after year to pay for it.
I thought what we were doing was replacing a forklift that's broken and that's required for the day-to-day operations of the transfer station, as recommended by the department head, who we've hired and who, as far as I know, we trust to do that job.
Okay.
I don't know about the school, what you're talking about, this before my time, but today, I think that's what we're doing.
But, okay, we're talking about funding this. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. It's a little more than just raising a hand and saying spend money.
I thought you made a proposal.
If he uses the 2,400 out of his budget to get him to
Next year's budget.
next year's budget process, then include this in his budget, the payment in his budget. Is that what you're thinking of doing?
Yes. Yep.
That's what he put in the paper that we all read last week.
Well, I understand what he's doing, I'm just saying that we, in the past, have frowned upon doing things that way. I'm just pointing it out, you know. We can change our minds.
Or we can spend $13,000 to fix the old one, and it doesn't make sense then.
I didn't suggest that, did I?
Bernice, did you have the number for us?
I did. He had $2,400 left over from unexpended money, but he also brought in almost $32,000 more in revenue than what was budgeted. So it's a total of $34,308 between the unexpended and the revenue that was not
Money that's
anticipated.
already in his account.
Well, it lacks to fund balance, so
That's
let's.
money's in the fund balance that basically came from the transfer station.
Correct.
Okay.
Do you have any idea what the total fund balance is?
I knew he was gonna ask me that. No.
And I should have anticipated that.
I'm still waiting for the auditors to give me one journal entry. I have a ballpark, but I'm waiting to see what that does to it. It's not pretty.
So basically, we're gonna need every cent of money we have. I'm getting that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if we're gonna do this, my preference, I don't wanna spend $13,000 on fixing a motor on a 1995 vehicle. I would prefer to use the 2,400 and then include this in your budget next year. Hopefully, we have enough from revenue that will offset this payment.
Say that again.
Pardon?
You're gonna do what?
He's gonna use $2,400 of his money now, am I correct?
That he's already got budgeted.
Right, for 6 months payments.
Okay.
And then he's gonna add $4,800 next year into his budget to make the payments for that year, is that correct?
Yes.
For
Okay.
like 5 years, you'll put that in the budget, or 4 years.
Fine,
It'll be in the budget for the next 4 or 5 years.
that's correct. Yes, Bob?
I'd just like to point out a couple of things. First off, we still don't really know what's wrong with this machine, but clearly you're just gonna buy another one, so it really doesn't matter. But last week, we was talking about buying a motor and having the town mechanic put it in, and it was a lot less than $13,000. I wonder if anybody bothered to find out what it would cost to put a fourth valve on the other forklift we have so it could run that bale frame, but I'm sure that that would probably never happen. I thought the plan last week was that we would try to find out what was wrong with the machine, but obviously there wasn't a way. So that never happened either. And I think that this company that sent this tech salesman down probably would like to sell another forklift. I thought we was gonna have an independent person, not a forklift salesman. And it says right here, no power issue. I really don't know what's wrong with it. So I wouldn't run my home like this. I wouldn't run my business like this. I'd find out what's wrong with it, and I'd probably fix it. But that's not gonna happen, so just do it.
Yes, Catherine?
I agree with Bob. You know, we're trying to save our taxpayers' tax dollars and spend them as wisely as possible. And we have a paid mechanic who obviously is very familiar with all of these things. Yes, I think it'd be great if we had extra money and I'd say, sure, let's go ahead and just replace it. But I agree with Bob. I mean, it's, you know, we're gonna spend, what, 30 some, well, plus the interest. They're probably gonna charge interest on whatever this thing is gonna cost brand new over the period of what, 4 years or more? I don't know what the total would be, but, and yes, I thought we were going to have an independent expert or whoever, not someone like this.
Bernice?
Does the cost of everything to the transfer station get divided amongst other towns? Is that
Yes,
what I
it does.
understand?
Yes, so this would be divided between the other towns also. They would pay their fair share.
Just tech coming down last week and troubleshooting this. I mean, we've spent more than a month's payment of a new one. We're no further ahead. And by the time they come down, or somebody else comes down, if they tear it apart and spend a day or two looking for that problem, and maybe they find it, maybe they don't. I mean, we're still wasting money. It's 23-year-old machine.
I can't believe it'd be wasting money to find out what the problem is. This isn't a lot different than that ambulance, where everybody scatters for these great big high prices, and then it got fixed for next to nothing because there really was very little wrong with it.
Ben, your thoughts? I'm gonna put you on the hot seat.
I would like to know the money situation a little better. So what are you doing at the moment for a forklift? You're vending one?
It's still going for now. It's just way underpowered and no guarantees how long it's gonna last. We topped off the reservoir this morning, it was down an inch. It isn't showing any oil, but it's going somewhere already.
But it is working.
It's functioning, yeah. For how long, we don't know, and next time we ship a load of cardboard, it might keep going, it might not.
I hate trying to solve these things under the gun. It's not a good way of doing things. But I would like to know, have a better idea of where the fund balance is at money-wise.
Sure, we'll find out.
We're going to have a town meeting at some time in the near future. Maybe we can get it all together and fund it some other way or whatever.
I mean, instead of wasting more money on text to check it out, I mean, $2,400 out of my repair line, and it solves the problem. For
I
another
agree
20
with Ben
years.
in that I don't want to try and solve this under the gun or at all. I feel like we have a department head because they run their department, and just like I'm not going to question Lisa about the pool pump that they need to borrow, this is why we hire people to run departments. I feel like, we need to trust our department heads.
Catherine?
How much does a new engine cost? I mean, they've got this,
About $5,100 for the new engine.
okay.
That's the
So
bid.
a new engine would cost 5,000 plus, and our mechanic
Yeah,
could put that in
yes,
and we would not have to pay $8,000 plus in labor.
that's correct.
Is that correct?
Yep. And if you, that 5,000 is a fifth the price of the new one.
I realize
The
that.
the new torque from the new engine, I mean, how long before a transmission goes or something? It's a 24-year-old piece of equipment.
But they're not guaranteeing that the engine will solve the problem. Am I correct?
No, nobody's put that in writing yet.
So we could spend $5,100 and rebuild the engine and the man hours for the mechanic to do it, and it still be no better than what it is. All right, folks, what do you want to do? Yes, Al?
I heard somebody mention we have a second forklift there.
No, the sewer district has one, but it doesn't have the fourth valve
But
on our bill.
it's not on that site.
No, we can borrow it if we need to. That's how we may do some days when this one's down.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that one's a 1993.
Okay, guys, what are we doing? Am I gonna get a motion, or are we gonna table this, or what are we gonna do with it?
I would make the motion if I could see the paper from last week, and I would just make the same motion from last week.
Your motion from last week?
Yeah, or his paper, because he did this research and gave it to us last week. I didn't bring my packet.
Is it in our minutes?
So I would like to make a motion that we authorize the transfer station department head to trade in the current forklift for a new one, using his $2,400 for 6 months payments towards the machine.
I'll second it. Any more discussion?
The 6 months will take you to next June.
Yeah, it takes 4 months to get the machine ordered. They don't have anything sitting around with that fourth valve on it.
So we're gonna be 4 months without it no matter what.
Yeah, we hope this one lasts for 4 months, yes.
Did you say that you looked into renting?
Yeah, but nobody has that fourth valve to run that mail clamp. That everybody just has a normal 3-valve system, you know, up, down, left, right, and then tilt the boom. This one has a 4th valve for running a clamp to grab bales of cardboard.
Are you ready to vote?
Not really.
Okay. Take your time.
So, when you use the sewer treatment plant's forklift, it doesn't have the fourth valve. How do you adapt and make that work?
We only need the 4th valve when we're shipping cardboard.
Okay.
So the normal routine, everyday thing is just with your normal 3 valves.
Okay.
Dumping single stream and picking pallets up off of the trucks and stuff like that.
Okay.
Shipping cables, TVs,
Okay.
How often do you ship cardboard?
about every other month.
Every other month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there similar equipment at Lincoln County Recycling? Because I know they deal in cardboard too. Do they have a forklift that they might be willing to share with you?
No, they,
Not on a long-term basis, but,
yeah, no, they don't have one set
They
up
don't.
like ours, no.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you didn't hear anything from Stu Burrell?
From who?
He's a guy that's over at Bowden Hamway that does this kind of work. I'd love to have a message to give you a call. And,
Nope,
okay.
nothing.
Are we ready to vote yet?
And what does the motion, it lets him use his budget for the next?
Yes,
end
for
of
the next
year.
6 months, the $2,400 in his budget for the next 6 months, and then put it into his yearly budget for next year, a payment.
Approximately 30,000, give or take.
And hopefully we can get it cheaper. If it's going out to bid, it could be cheaper.
5 years or something, 4 years.
Because I wish we had more information in front of us in regards to the money, which we don't have at the moment.
What money are you referring to?
You said you couldn't tell me.
Which, the fund balance? Is that what you're asking about fund balance? Yeah, you have about 400,000-ish, probably a little less.
But the way he's doing it, he won't be touching his fund balance, won't be touching the fund balance.
Right.
He'll be taking the $2,400 out of his operating expenses, and then next year, he will include that in his budget, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
as a budgetary item. So it will not affect the fund balance that we have.
If we do it that way. I know it doesn't bother you, but, you know, we can sit here and be hypocrites, but we're doing exactly what we spent thousands of dollars to try to prevent the schools from doing. And now we are doing the exact same thing.
I don't see it that way. Why do you say that? Why do you say we're doing the same thing that the school did?
Because they, with that energy project, they were simply going to spend the money and then tax the townspeople so much per year until it was paid off. It's exactly the same thing we're doing here.
It's the same thing we did with the loader on the 10-year lease on the loader.
At least, that one did go through the budget process first.
Yes. It's the truck and the trailers all have.
Like I said, if I could get all the numbers of what we had, I might be more willing to go forward with the town meeting and simply fund the whole thing and get done with it, rather than drips and drabs for 4 or 5 years. It's silly.
Catherine?
Marion, if the motion as it's read, and if that passes, if and when we vote, is there any way to, as Ben is concerned about spreading out these payments my kind of way too, but, okay, we both say this is what we're gonna do, but then can we kind of undo the financing part if it happens that we can get them, you know, come up with the money somehow wherever? I don't know, this is all, and then
We
pay for
could
the
do
whole
that,
thing.
yes.
Oh,
They won't need the money for 4 months until. the
right, I
machine's built.
understand that, but I just don't wanna be limited to one.
Bernice?
And I repeat again, we're not the only ones coming up with the money, is that correct? Are there not 2 other towns that are gonna be paying their
Correct.
share of this?
Yeah,
So are we gonna ask for their share up front because we're going to do up front?
It's already budgeted in for the first year, right? Any money you spend up in your account, they
Yes.
will contribute.
yes.
They've already,
Yeah,
Correct.
same as last year.
If that's if we finance it, which means it would be distributed amongst those 3 towns for the next however many years we finance it. But if you're talking about taking the whole money from
That would
somewhere
eliminate
to
it.
pay it,
But you're talking of taking the money from leftover money that I generated last year. That's what you're thinking?
I'm not thinking that.
No, okay. Well, I mean, Ben's kind of.
I'm trying to see all angles of it.
He's trying to figure, yes, yeah.
Like I said, I hate it when something just dropped in our lap and we're supposed to come up with a miracle.
well, if you've got about $400,000 in fund balance and you're talking about taking 30 of it out for this one project, rather than spreading that out over and distributing amongst the 3 towns, at that much less you had an overall to reduce taxes by. I mean, you're talking almost a 1/10 of your overall fund balance that you would take for this one project.
That 400,000, does that include the 200,000 from?
No, that's
Yeah.
separate, that's
That is
completely
separate.
separate.
So basically, if you add, we're talking, we might possibly have 600,000 at this point.
That's if you wipe the fund balance out completely, which is not
I
recommended
know,
by the treasurer.
I know, I agree with you. I agree with
Can
you.
I move my seat?
I'm protecting your money, Al.
Thank you, Dave.
Okay, I think we've discussed this till the end. Shall we make a motion? There's a motion on the floor. You want to read it again, please?
That we authorize the transfer station department head to trade in the current forklift for a new one for 2,400. Well, that was the end of the motion, and later you said use the 2,400 in the budget for this year, and then it would be in his yearly budget. But I don't know how much that means for the motion.
Okay.
Would the motion be better if it was something like we authorize the department head to meet with the town manager and get the best trade-in available? So then, you know, he's gonna
Put it up to bid.
look at, yeah, put it out to bid or.
Well, it has to go out to bid.
I'm fine with it either way, so. You guys.
And I will vote for the motion just to get it going, because
Oh, okay. We can get a vote.
I am not thrilled with it.
The old motion.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion to let this transfer station superintendent use the $2,400 for the forklift and incorporate payments into his next year's budget and going out to bid on a forklift. All those in favor? Opposed? 3-2. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. TAN award update. Mary?
So you have in your packet the summary of the 7 candidates that we received. And as you can see, Sanford Institute for Savings on an as-needed basis was 1.3. They were the lowest. So I would like to ask for a motion from the board to award the bid to Sanford Institute for Savings on an as-needed basis. I believe you have the language.
I have the language. It says, Number 1, that under the pursuant of Title 30A, Section 5771 of the Maine Revised Statutes as amended and supplemented, there be and hereby is authorized the issuance of a $1,347,000 principal amount tax anticipation note of the town in anticipation of the receipt of taxes for the municipal fiscal year which commenced July 1st, 2018 and ends June 30th, 2019. Number 2, that said note shall be dated on and about August 31st, 2018, shall mature on June 30th, 2019, shall be signed by the treasurer and countersigned by the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, shall bear interest at the rate of 1.3 per annum on a 30/360 day basis, and shall be payable at the Sanford Institute for Savings, in other words, be in such form and bear such details as the signers may determine. Number 3, that said note is hereby sold and awarded to Sanford Institute for Savings. Number 4, that this note is hereby designated qualified tax exempt obligations of the town for the 2018 calendar year pursuant to the Internal Revenue Code of 1996. Number 5, that all things heretofore done and all action heretofore taken by the town, its municipal officers and agents in the authorization of said note are hereby ratified, and all action ratified, approved, and confirmed, and the treasurer and chairman are each hereby authorized to take any and all action necessary or convenient to carry out the provisions of this voting, including delivering said note against payment therefore.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one?
It's one in every Friday.
I guess so. Thank you.
I'd have a copy.
Comp plan update.
I just wanted to bring the board up to date on our movement on the comprehensive plan. We did send out letters to all of the previous comp plan board members and ask them if they are interested in participating again, and also ask them if they had any recommendations if they were unavailable. So we've started with the first step, and the next step will be to advertise that we are looking for comp plan members.
Great, and is it, like, are we gonna ensure that we get members from across the community? So we have stakeholders, you know, from like the retired community, the young family community, the school department, the town.
Yes, when we put the advertisement out, it will be for members, so, and then all of those applications will come to the board, and you folks will make those appointments.
And we have to remember that people have to be willing to volunteer to do this.
Yes, I think there are a lot of people in town who
That's
really want
good.
to think forward
I
and
hope so.
make a plan for the future.
Okay, next one, White's Island update.
So after the last meeting's conversation where we talked about folks accessing the unsafe bridge structures through the railroad, Public Works did go out, and if you've been down Lobby by the White's Island, you'll see that they put signage and blocked off the entrances at all of the access points. So we did do that. We hesitate to remove the pilings and everything, so we just secured it safely. So we appreciate that the public pays attention to who's out there. So if you do see folks out there, please be sure to bring it to our attention. But as far as we know, the site is secure until someone is a bit more creative than we are to try to access it.
And I don't know if, Lisa, do you have anything to add at all about the grant process? You don't have to, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but.
Yeah, just that we met last week to start on it, so we'll mention that.
Okay, on to new business. We have bid
I'm
openings.
sorry, Judy, there was one other thing I just wanted to throw out there. If there's anybody in the community who might be watching now on YouTube or here, if you know someone who is a landscape architect who might be interested in some pro bono work or submitting a bid on that job for our grant, please have them reach out to, I don't know, Marion or Lisa.
Thank you. Bid openings, the Wiscasset Community Center Water Chemistry Controller and Chlorine Feed System. It looks like we have one.
Open it slow.
You told me to be slow. I'm being slow. Streamline Aquatics LLC out of Connecticut. $10,240.76.
Could you repeat that? 2,000?
$10,240.76. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that we authorize the town manager and the Parks and Recreation Director to review the bids and award the water chemistry controller and chlorine feed system bid to the lowest qualified bidder.
Yes, excuse me, yes, Bob.
Fresh my memory, what did we have for proposed figure in the budget?
I believe it was 10,000 in capital. So
Right, yeah.
Okay, did you second it, Ben?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
He asked the question I was going to ask.
All right. It's been seconded, okay. All those in favor?
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry.
we have 10,000?
Yes.
So we have the, I guess we have the authority to take 240 out of the rec budget. Is that how you want to make up the difference?
I think that's under, unless we can negotiate a reduction.
We can try to negotiate a reduction. We've heard from this company before, so.
Tell them all we have is 10,000, you'll go for it.
Tell them you got 95 instead of the 10.
Yeah.
Seriously, tell them you got 95
Public
instead of
Works
the
truck, because we took the rest of it out of the Public Works budget.
Good thinking.
Well, I asked that question too whenever it came up and didn't really give me the answer. Thank you.
That's where it came from.
Oh, boy, okay.
It's okay.
Are we ready to vote? All those in favor? Opposed? 0. Thank you. Monthly financials. Mary?
So you have in your packet the HM business statement and the settlement of the accounts. I'm happy to answer any questions. As you can see, the HM Payson accounts continue to do well and perform. We will be having an investment committee meeting in September. Obviously the meeting will be posted once it's scheduled. If anyone would like to join us, you're welcome.
Don't we need a representative from the selectmen?
Yes, we do. You volunteer?
Well, I was going to volunteer. I've done it once before.
I'll go anyway. I mean, I was gonna go, I used to go before, they're interesting.
Kim can do it then.
I go anyway, so the more the
We can
merrier.
go together,
We'll see, depending on what comes up on my plate.
I guess it depends what day, no day.
We typically do it, I believe, the third Thursday, but I send out an email with a meeting invite to everybody and give choices, so if there are days that don't work, just let me know in advance, and I'm happy to try to accommodate that.
How many could describe Payson a minute ago?
Who, me?
No, the manager.
Oh.
Like how you said everything was going good, maybe I dreamt it.
Well, but remember, we've made our withdrawals, so,
Okay.
yeah, that's true.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's performing well.
Okay. Any other questions regarding it?
Oh.
Yes,
How much was the withdrawal?
1 million.
Mine's the 91 we took already out for the ambulance.
Right. Right. That came out of the million.
The Does that get taken out as needed?
If it did, we wouldn't have any money to run
Okay, that answers that.
That's the ideal way, Adam, but for cash flow purposes, no, it all got moved to the 1st of July.
Oh, okay, then the million out is reflected in this.
Yes.
Well, in that case, it's doing very well.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a new business application from Deborah Torrey, doing business as Idlewild Farm. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second it. Any questions from the board? All those in favor? Thank you. Now, carry forwards. Mary?
You have in your packet a memo requesting that that the board vote to allow the carry forward of $16,250. $5,250 of that would be from the finance department. We have a large number of the discharge of tax liens that need to be discharged, and we are hoping to complete a software enhancement that would allow public access for tax cards and tax payments for the public to access online. The municipal building is $6,000. We've not yet completed the repairs to the face of the clock. We did the interior work, but we've not fixed the face of the clock or finished the Scout Hall stairs. As you are also aware, we are going to have to complete our union negotiations, and so I'm asking for $5,000 in anticipation of any changes in wages that might have to be paid retroactively. So the total that I'm asking for is $16,250.
Which next comes from that 400,000. Just so you're ready to
Yes.
ask.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, Mary, because I'm new with this. I don't understand.
Okay, I'll do my best if Bernice jump in,
Thank you.
okay?
I'm sorry.
No.
No.
So I'll start with what I consider the easiest one, the police department. Their contract expired June 30th.
Yes.
So in the process of those contract negotiations, we anticipate there may be changes in salary. So if that happens, we have to be able to pay retroactively for those. We had hoped to have that done before the start of the new fiscal year. We did not accomplish that. So that's for that money. The municipal building account, those are projects in progress. As you might remember, folks fixed the interior of the town clock, bracing it and like that. We still need to do some work on the face of the clock. So that's a project that's still pending. The repairs to the...
These are things from last year that you
Yes,
want to
that
spend
haven't-
this
that
year.
haven't
That's
yet
what I
been
wasn't
completed.
clear on. Okay.
Yep.
And I don't have one of those in my packet.
And then the finance one is, we have quite a few discharges for tax liens that we didn't get them completed last year. And so they cost about $19 a piece to process. And the software enhancement, you may remember that there was a day of the week that we were closed for software enhancement, and that's a continuation of that process.
And so we just want permission to spend the money that we
To
didn't
carry it
spend
forward
last year.
from last year
I
to this year.
understand.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And this is all.
You do not have this?
I don't have that.
Good, give it mine. It's a lot easier if you got it right in front of you.
This is the only carry forward we have.
And I'm sorry, if I had it, I would have asked you before I got here.
Only carry forward out of the general fund, yes. The other carry forwards for special revenues, capitals, and trusts and fiduciaries do themselves.
Okay.
So, and typically, Kim, in other years, that list has been much larger. So this is actually a very modest request for just those essential projects.
Well, we can't say no. I mean, it's money we budgeted for last year, and now we just need to spend it this year, right?
Well, you're the board, you can say no.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, but the taxpayers have already.
Right.
We committed this last year,
To
which
these
is
projects.
unspent, right?
Well,
I don't understand the police one again. We didn't budget for that?
their contract expired June 30th. So we had anticipated a new contract prior to the year end, and that did not happen. And so, this is just a measure to not have a budget overdraft. So we had anticipated it to come out of last year's budget, those contract negotiations.
Well, how could we have 5,000 in retro pay? We don't have that many police officers.
I don't, it's an estimate, Ben, based on having 4 officers that are in the union. I don't know what it will be. There's been some conversation about wages, that's all I can say publicly.
We don't know how many officers you're gonna have before this contract gets negotiated, and if it gets negotiated in January, February, you're gonna have whoever was on board from July until then that will get retro pay.
From any point when the contract is signed, they don't have, you have 4 officers that are in the union.
Right.
So at any time, hopefully the new chief will have everybody on board in a couple of weeks and we'll be in good shape and pressure on it. But it is an estimate that
Well, I mean, at the moment, we're in negotiations and we have 1 police officer. Shouldn't take long. No, I don't see the need for $5,000.
But has the police union requested meetings for negotiation?
we had, remember, they had,
Yes.
and then they asked to wait until they had more members in the union, so.
So it's
We are
not,
not negotiating at the present time with a member of 1. So you can certainly decide not to do that. I mean, that's,
Or, but for that matter, we could settle this carry forward 5 months from now if we wanted to. Is there a time limit?
Yes.
well, the auditor,
The auditor wants, the treasurer wants to know what to give the auditor for numbers so that it's reflected in the audit for the end of the year, June 30th.
and if those funds aren't spent, remember, they're committed to only that item, so they can't be spent for anything else.
Right.
So should we not spend them, the difference is they'll drop to the bottom line
Next year.
next year instead of this year. They can't be used for anything else.
yes, Bob?
Didn't we calculate a raise when we did the budget for the police department, the proposal, calculate a figure in for potential raises?
Only for what was in the current contract. We don't have anything going forward. You may remember in a union contract, when it expires, you continue to operate under the previous contract. So we did do that, but I don't know about the other changes that could come about. I have to be very careful what I can say publicly about negotiations.
Well, I guess I would like to hold off because I had questions about other expenditures of the police department budget. So I don't.
This is only for wages though, is that correct?
Right, it's only wages.
Just wages is the
It's just
police
wages.
department portion of this 16.5. The
And-
$5,000 is only for wages
And if it's
of
not,
the union members.
if it's not, let's say they only need 3,000 out of the 5, that's all they're gonna spend is the 3,000.
The rest will be fund balance.
But any of this is only retroactive to when you hire someone. It isn't retroactive back to July 1st.
Correct. You're correct.
But only if we have a contract.
Correct.
If we renew the contract, let's say in January, we get a contract, then we have to pay the officers, I assume, to the end of
Those 6 months.
that 6 months.
Well, like Bob said, the wages themselves, we anticipated an increase and put it in the budget.
You anticipated 2%. There's conversation about a change to the wages. Let me just leave it at that.
Well, that's their conversation. I mean, we put in a figure and budgeted. If we should approve this, then they're gonna know the money's there. It doesn't strengthen us
It
hand.
isn't just for retro pay though, it's also for union negotiations, correct?
No, that's what comes out of it.
Just because the money's there doesn't mean they're gonna get it. I mean, just because we've got $5,000 doesn't mean we're gonna give the union $5,000, or we're gonna give them a 10% increase either.
And again, this was money that was authorized last year, and you're just requesting permission to spend unspent funds this year, and you need to have this number now so you can do the
You
audit.
need to have this number now because you guys want the audit.
Okay, can I make a motion?
Be my guest.
So
Excuse me, wait a minute, Al.
My question is, are we not under budget right now severely because we only have one officer?
Yes.
So if we're that much under budget, do we need, I'm not trying to, be a devil's advocate, but it would seem to me that we're gonna be under budget for that period because we are severely short on officers. My observation.
Well, I don't see why we need the money. Thank you.
Kim? You want to make a motion?
Should we just take the 5,000 out?
Whatever you would like to do.
I'm gonna make a motion to authorize the treasurer to carry forward the sum of $16,250 to the fiscal year 2018-19 budget.
And I will second it.
What was the amount? 16,000?
$16,250.
Well, I will vote against that because the 5,000's already there.
It's not used. And it does have this total amount of 16,250 is divided up into specific
Right.
entities
Correct.
and cannot be used for anything except those entities. And if it's not needed, it will not be spent.
That's
It will
correct.
be back into whatever
The general fund.
that Denise says it goes back to.
Yes.
But if we don't hold it over, it will be in the fund balance when we need it the most, which is coming right up, by the way.
I wonder, when we're talking about fund balances and TANs and everything, this is the reason we don't have fund balances because of motions like this. But that's why that happens.
That's a very small portion of why you don't have a fund balance.
Well, there's all kinds of reasons, but this is one of the reasons.
But it is a very small portion.
Well, I feel like the town treasurer and the town manager would not ask for this if they did not need this. So again, I don't want to micromanage them, and we're talking about $16,000, and it's money that was authorized last year, and it's only going to be spent if it's needed. And if we don't authorize it, then they're going to have to find, and it's needed, they're going to have to get the money out of someplace else from this year, or I don't know what you're going to do. And if we don't move on it, then they can't close the year and do the audit. So I stand by my motion.
Okay, it's been seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? 3-2. Town managers report.
So you have in your packet the Lincoln County calendar, FY 2019 budget, the calendar, and the information on the caucus for municipal officers. From the Commission District 1, the meeting will be held on Thursday, September 20th at 6 p.m. This is information for you to attend. In the past, Ken, you've been our representative, correct, through the budget process?
For 40 years, yes.
Yes.
Well, my term is up.
Okay. So,
Would you do it again?
Sure, but don't know if they'd elect me again.
Well, we'll elect you.
so this is just information for the board to make a decision on, and an opportunity to see their calendar and what they're moving forward with. So there's no action needed. One of the things that I want to bring up that's not on the agenda tonight, but we've had much discussion on, is the trees in the downtown. We do not yet have the PAC committee report. They are diligently working on it, having one more meeting, and then I anticipate we will receive the report. But I wanted to report to you that we have had some communication with MDOT, gone back and forth at some of the board members' requests to find out that if MDOT would support the town's request for trees, and if MDOT would pay for those trees. And what we have been told is that if the board makes a decision soon, that they would like trees, then MDOT will support that request. My understanding, Bill, is the recommendation from the PAC is to leave the trees to the Board of Selectmen. Am I correct in that?
That's correct.
So, putting the PAC report aside, I would like to know if you would like to direct me to let MDOT know that we would like trees.
Do you want a motion on that?
I would appreciate a motion.
Catherine's made the motion, I'll second it.
Wait, what's the
What's the
motion?
motion? To
The
do-
motion, of course, is 4 trees, and I thank you very much for responding to my request to ask them.
What is your motion?
My motion is that we authorize the town manager to advise MDOT that we want the trees at their cost and planted appropriately so that they will last forever, almost forever. No,
And I second it. Before we vote though, Bill,
Yes.
when you did the survey, what tree was it that came out on top, I guess?
Japanese lilac, I believe.
Yes, I believe that's what Ernie was saying when we were talking
I
before.
think that may be one that they are looking at, but it hasn't been.
I think that would be the determinant of the
Because
board.
that kind is, they were thinking of a tree that wouldn't like pop up the bricks in the sidewalk.
And it would be what they call a medium or small tree that is not any higher than 30 feet, which can be pruned appropriately, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay. Yes, Bill?
Yeah, there's an email I sent out before I came here to Marion. Hopefully it's the last revision of the report to you. But in there, there's in the appendix, there's a thing from Mr. what's his name?
Wells.
Mr. Wells of Federal Street, who works with MDOT Massachusetts on trees and has given us some information. There's in the appendix, there's a 3-page report, at least maybe 4 pages, and talking about the actual planting of the trees and what can go there and all, and the proper way of doing it, that they won't come up, at least for many, many, many years.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, Bob?
I'm on that PAC committee, but I've got to say, I was not on the PAC committee when all the tree discussion took place, so I didn't participate in that at all. But as we was reviewing the final report, the PAC committee did vote against the trees. I don't really understand the recommendation to just toss it to the selectmen. I wasn't there for the discussion. I don't know if anybody else was. But after that discussion, the PAC committee voted, I think it was 6-2, to not recommend trees. Somehow the wording isn't quite that clear now. But I looked at that handout there about planting them trees, and it requires putting pipes underneath the sidewalk to keep these trees interested in having the roots grow down. Is that going to happen if the DOT plants these trees, or are they just going to dig a hole and stick them in?
That's not the way Ernie explained it to me. Don't ask me to repeat it, because he was talking about putting something in the ground and then the tree will go inside it so that the roots can't expand.
That's the same
They
thing.
go out.
It'll stay right within an area. So they can't go into pipes, they can't go into any, am I correct?
Yeah, they're so that if they do start spreading, they're gonna be way below ground. And it'll just, it's like putting a offset, like putting a pipe down there so that they don't start spreading out, they go downwards.
Well,
And
that
will stop-
handout though had pipes not going down, but pipes laid underground that would pick up stormwater and attract the roots. I
Attract the
thought that was
roots
the
down
plan.
Like having like the tree in your yard that goes for your sewer pipe.
Exactly, yeah.
This prevents.
And I'm just wondering if that's the way they're gonna be planted.
That part I
I
don't.
mean, I suppose you can stick them in a barrel and hope the roots don't grow out of the top of it, but that's not what it said in the handout. But I'm not trying to, I mean, wonder if we shouldn't have the PAC report, which I didn't participate in that discussion, but I did read it, and I know how the PAC committee voted.
Could we tell MDOT that we would like to have the trees with the root guidance system, or whatever it's called?
Well, I know that's how Ernie explained it to us, the way that they were gonna do it is almost like in a barrel, only it's a big barrel.
It's in the ground.
In the ground, and then they put the tree inside, and then, so the roots can't go anywhere.
And did they recommend Japanese lilac, because that's something that will
Yes.
live inside such a barrel?
And that's what Ernie said, the Japanese lilac,
What
yes.
Bob is saying is in addition to that, there's pipes underneath it, with crushed stone in it.
Right, and it says in that handout that the tree will not get enough water through the impervious pavement to prosper unless you do this other stuff.
Marion it's on her computer now. She can do that and talk to Ernie about how it's gonna be done.
I think
If
that's
it's not done right,
what
they're gonna die.
Catherine?
Way back, I do remember, not when I was on the PAC committee, but when I attended one of the meetings, the landscape architect, that is a state employee for MDOT, explained pretty much the same process for planting the trees. So I think this is a standard that they have to follow. I mean, there's no point in just plunking a tree in a hole and then having it, uproot the bricks. This whole planting process keeps those roots down well below sidewalk level, and they go out or down, however, but they don't come back up. And these trees certainly aren't gonna be planted until sometime next year, so.
Right.
But I think we need to let MDOT know that we are in favor. I hope we are in favor of.
Well, they have to know to be able to do the sidewalk.
So they have to know, they have to have that information to plan their sidewalk, however they do it. I'm sure it's all engineered, but, and I'm not an engineer, but they do need to know ahead of time.
I gotta believe the DOT knows what they're doing.
Well, I would hope so.
Bill, can I ask a question? The PAC, when they took the vote on the trees, and they determined they weren't gonna come forward and say they want trees. Did they say that they were gonna leave it up to the Board of Selectmen? Was that the consensus of the PAC meeting?
It was at that time that there was a survey monkey done, and it was overwhelmingly, the people that voted for 300 and something.
300 and something, 40
people
trees.
wanted trees.
Mhm.
I wanted trees. In the conversation of what was gonna happen to people talking to us, I voted not to because of the way they were explaining it might die and all. If I had to vote again, I'd vote for trees myself. But at that time, I voted against them.
So what I'm trying to get at is the PAC committee themselves is leaving the decision on trees up to the Board of Selectmen.
Absolutely
Yes.
correct.
Okay, so what we're doing tonight is part of the PAC settling the tree situation. Okay. Can we vote on trees, please?
Yes.
Yes.
All those in favor of trees?
Is this the?
All those opposed? 4 to 1. Thank you.
Good trees and
Thank
big
you.
trees.
Is this the previous motion that you're voting on, which Catherine's
Whatever,
motion?
yeah,
We
Yeah,
want the trees at their cost and.
yes,
they're gonna pay for it.
yeah.
Oh, we're paying for it, not we, but our tax dollars are up there.
But we have trees. We have trees on Main Street. Yeah, go back.
We want those trees in the headlines of the Wiscasset newspaper.
Yes, please.
Please.
Wiscasset, Lincoln County. We got trees.
Trees are growing.
We will have trees.
Japanese lilac, yes.
Right.
Something positive for a change.
Okay,
Regrowth.
town manager has one more thing.
So earlier in the meeting, I introduced you to our new chief of police, but I did not allow him to introduce all of the special guests that accompanied him this evening. And as those of us that work in government know, that it's more than just one person, it's family support. So Larry, would you please introduce folks that joined you this evening?
I apologize, I didn't do it earlier, but my emotions are moving. My girlfriend Laura, my son Gage and Zachariah. I didn't know this crew was coming. My dad, my mom from Lincoln, my two sisters, and my niece and her husband from Brunswick. But these four traveled 3 hours down here.
Can you have them stand up there?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so nice.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for coming.
And thank you all for supporting him. He'll continue to need your support. Thank you, Larry. And also this evening, we have our new superintendent of schools has joined us this evening, so I want to take the opportunity to welcome Terry. She just came to observe our meeting. So welcome and thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, Bernice,
The auditors, are supposed to be here at the next board meeting to go over the draft.
September 4th.
Yes.
Okay. When are we going to be able to set the salary?
September 4th.
September 4th? Okay.
You'll know your fund balance then.
Okay. Because I would like to be able to give the people an opportunity to know what their taxes or mill rate's going to
We
be.
are getting calls quite frequently asking when the bills are coming out.
Okay. So that'll be September 4th.
Well, we'll get the information on the board.
Wow. Hopefully we can make some type of have an idea of what the mill rate's going to be.
Is Ellery going to be here that day?
Yes.
Yes. So,
Can we take, when do the tax bills go out?
Well, last year we committed September 19th, I think, or something like that, so we're a little bit in the schedule.
It's usually our second meeting.
Okay.
But
If we could do it.
we want to look at it first. I mean, a couple of years ago, we settled for 14%, and I think it was a big mistake. I don't expect that to happen this year, but if something like that does, we can do other things.
Okay, no problem. Okay, other board business. Do any of the members of the board have anything?
Just thank you for voting for trees.
I'm just glad the issue was,
Properly installed.
okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor? Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.